Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest is Savanna Nolan. Savanna is a solicitor within JMW's Commercial Litigation Department and specialises in public law. So in the press, there's been all sorts of talk about PPE and contracts in relation to PPE. But actually, now there's a case that's gone through the court system. So what happened in this case, Savanna?
So in this judicial review case, Dominic, the claimant, which was the Good Law Project, challenged some government decisions that were made in 2020 about the decision to award public contracts for the supply of PPE. And they challenged those decisions because of the way in which the government carried out its procurement process. So if we cast our minds all the way back to March 2020, there was a massive increase in demand for PPE, which coincided with a shortage of PPE worldwide because of disrupted supply chains and things like that. And so the government introduced a new approach to the way that it procured PPE so that it could ensure that the NHS and other care providers had enough supplies. So what the government did was from March 2020, they had a portal on their website where they invited potential suppliers to make offers to supply PPE. But until June 2020, they also operated something called a high priority lane, or otherwise known as a VIP lane, in parallel. And that was specifically reserved for referrals that came from ministers, MPs, and other senior officials. So this case was about whether that process was lawful or not.
So what did the court decide in the case, Savanna?
The court decided that the principles of equal treatment and transparency did apply to the government and the approach that it chose to adopt with this particular procurement exercise. So the way it chose to run its exercise considered multiple different bids from potential suppliers who could all meet the demand in the required time frame. So the principles did apply. The court then went on to consider whether the government's approach breached those principles. And so the way in which potential suppliers could make offers of what they could provide rather than in response to a specific contract that was advertised by the government, that didn't breach the principles of equal treatment and transparency. However, the high priority lane or the VIP lane that was reserved for referrals that came from ministers, etc., the court decided that did breach the principle of treating potential suppliers equally and in a transparent manner. So the reason that the court decided that the high priority lane, or the VIP lane as it was otherwise known, breached the principles of equal treatment and transparency was because that team was better resourced, which meant that offers that were received through that lane were responded to quickly and often on the same day, whereas offers received via the portal weren't necessarily responded to as quickly. So that gave offers that were made through the VIP lane a greater chance of securing a contract with the government, which amounted to preferential treatment. And the court decided that that preferential treatment couldn't be justified on the basis of an endorsement from someone like a minister or an MP, which was in breach of the principle of equal treatment and transparency.
Savanna, you mentioned from the outset that it was a judicial review, and I know that you work in a team with specialist public law lawyers. Can you give us an idea of the sort of work that you do and how you can help?
Yeah, so our public law team at JMW, we act in judicial review claims. So that can be a public procurement judicial review, but it could relate to any other decision made by a public body or a body exercising some sort of public function. So that could be a local council all the way up to government. It could be a chief constable of a police force. It could be a court, or it could be a regulatory body. So we've acted in a number of judicial review claims that have been in relation to the government's response to the coronavirus pandemic. So that's something that we're used to.
Thank you very much for your insight, Savanna. And if you'd like to contact Savanna and the public law team, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.